Let me ask you something easy but silently strong. When was the last time you truly felt your birth date? Not just noted it, not just said thanks to a few notes, but really felt it the way you did as a small person, the way your chest used to beat with joy at the sight of big balloons, sweet food, and everyone's eyes focused on you for one special short day. Now, think about being an adult. The same day arrives and leaves, but it feels like any other day. You wake up, maybe get some phone messages, maybe your parent calls, and then you continue with your day. You tell people you do not really have a party, you say you do not care, you say it is just a regular day. But is that true? Because under that relaxed way, under that quick shoulder movement, there is often a quiet, true story. Many people who treat their birth date like a normal day are not cold, without feelings, or distant. In fact, often they are the people who think the most, the ones who have learned to hide what they hope for, because being let down taught them to. In the mind, birth dates are like feeling mirrors. They show how you feel about being alive, how you handle attention, and how okay you are with people looking at you. When someone says, "I do not care about my birth date," what they are often trying to say is, "I do not need others to tell me I am good anymore." But sometimes what they mean is, "I stopped hoping for it." There is a clear difference between being grown up and emotionally pulling back, and birth dates have a strange way of showing us which one we have done. Some people truly grow past the excitement of a birth date, not because they are sad, but because they have found peace. They have found meaning in every day, in their habits, in simple, quiet moments. For them, happiness is not just for one day on the list. They have learned that being alive is the party itself, but for others, the story is different. For them, birth dates are silently complicated. They might bring a little worry, not because of getting older, but because of what they remember. Maybe birth dates remind them of times when they felt forgotten, or maybe they cared too much once and were hurt by not getting what they hoped for. So instead of saying, "This year I hope someone remembers," they say, "It is just a normal day." It is safety pretending to be not caring. And that is where the mind's study gets very interesting, because it shows us how the mind changes. When we feel let down often, the brain starts to lower what it expects. This is called keeping your feelings safe. You reduce what you look forward to, so you do not feel bad. You teach yourself not to hope too loudly. And while that may seem sad, it is actually a smart way of keeping your feelings in check, a way of staying balanced. The brain chooses to be stable over being excited, when being excited has often led to pain. But here is the surprise. Over time, that same way of keeping yourself safe can quietly stop joy. The heart that once kept itself safe becomes a little too cautious. You start walking through your own life like a visitor at someone else's party. You are polite, you watch things, but you are not truly there. Think about how many people smile and say, "Oh, I do not really do birth dates." But later they quietly think about the day, noting who did not write a message, who forgot, who said nothing. We all do it. Even the ones who say they do not care, because caring is human. Even pretending not to care is a form of caring, just turned upside down, pressed down, hidden under a shell of calm. Mind experts call this the behavior of avoiding approval. It is when you make yourself believe you do not need to be noticed because a part of you is afraid of not getting it. And it often grows in people who at some point learned that needing things emotionally was a trouble for others, that it was simpler to need nothing than to be disappointed again. So when you meet someone who treats their birth date like any other day, do not think they lack feelings. Sometimes they have simply made peace with being let down. They have traded excitement for being in control, but being in control costs something, because under the calm surface of it is just a regular day lies a feeling that is true. We all want to be noticed, not praised, not celebrated with big shows, but truly noticed. There is something very important about birth dates. They mark the fact that you exist. The one day of the year that belongs totally to you. Not for what you have done, not for who you are with, but just because you are here. And for many people that reminder brings different feelings. Some feel thankful, Others feel alone, some feel both at once, like a strange mix of remembering the past and not caring now. It is because birth dates, whether we know it or not, remind us of time. They remind us how far we have gone and how much we have not. That is a quiet mind trigger most people do not see. For some, treating their birth date like a normal day is their way of keeping their feelings steady. It is their way of stopping time from feeling too heavy. If I do not make it a big event, they think, then it will not feel like another year quickly going by. There is also a certain way that the world has changed this idea. When you are a small person, birth dates are important social steps. They connect us to a group. But as an adult, that bright light often feels strange. Many adults quietly struggle with the conflict between wanting to be noticed and wanting to avoid seeming to need things. And that inner fight shows up in a quiet way, in how they handle their own birth date. Because here is what happens deep down. When you grow up being the one who is responsible, the strong one or the giver, your mind learns a message: your happiness comes second. You learn to make your own needs seem small. You become the one who remembers everyone else's important day but forgets your own. And over time, your birth date starts to feel unimportant. You are not even sure what you would do if someone planned something big. It feels strange, maybe even not needed. But the truth is that feeling uneasy about being celebrated is not being humble. It is being emotionally tired. Deep down, many of these people still strongly want to feel noticed, but not in a noisy way. They do not want attention. They want to be understood. They want someone to remember not just the day they were born, but who they have been becoming all year long, because that is the strange point of growing up emotionally. The more you rely on yourself for feelings, the harder it is to take love without thinking too much about it. So birth dates become neutral zones, places where feelings would normally show but are replaced by practical thinking. It is fine, you say. Let us just get through the day. But behind that quiet sound, the mind is dealing with many different feelings. Remembering the fun of being a child, a little sadness for friends that are gone, thankfulness for still being alive, and a soft desire for things to be simple, for the type of joy that used to come easily. That is what makes this mind study so common to everyone. Even if you think you do not care about birth dates anymore, a part of you still remembers what it felt like to be celebrated without any trouble. There is also a level of thinking about life that mind experts have seen in adults around their birth dates, something called knowing your timeline. It is the moment you look back at the person you were a year ago and quietly measure the space between who you wanted to be and who you are now. And sometimes that space is not comfortable. That is why for some people birth dates feel like a way to check yourself, not parties. They show the quiet distance between what was expected and what is real. And instead of looking at that reflection, people prefer to make the day seem very small. But it is not a lack of feeling, it is thinking, it is the human mind saying, give me room to think about my own timeline. So if you have ever felt strange about your birth date, like you should feel something you do not, know that it is normal. You are not ungrateful or uncaring. You are simply aware. You are aware that time is moving. You are aware that being noticed feels different now. You are aware that a party means something deeper than sweet food and candlelights. Because birth dates are never really about how old you are. They are about what things mean. And the older we get, the more personal that meaning becomes. When you were a child, your birth date was about the world seeing you. When you are an adult, it is about you seeing yourself. It is less about what you have now and more about what you give, less about who shows up and more about how much of yourself has shown up in your own life. That is the quiet change most people do not discuss. And yet, it makes sense of everything about why we stopped making it a big deal. Because maybe we have quit trying to be celebrated by the world and started trying to feel good about our own path. But even in that good feeling, there is a quiet sound, a small voice that says, I hope someone still remembers. That is the strange point of emotional growth. You can be happy and still want connection. You can be steady and still miss the feeling of being seen. And that is fine, that is being human. Because treating your birth date like a normal day does not mean you are numb. It means you have learned that joy is not something you need to set a time for. It is something you carry silently every day in the small ways you keep showing up for yourself. It is the quietest kind of party. Invisible, but true. But here is where it gets even more interesting, the deeper layer most people never realize. When someone treats their birth date like a normal day, they are not pushing away joy, they are giving it a new meaning. They are saying, I no longer need the world's permission to feel good about being alive. And that shift from a party on the outside to agreement on the inside marks one of the quietest forms of growing up, because somewhere along we all begin to learn that the things that once made us feel special, like presents, big parties, posts on social media, start to lose their light. What starts to matter more is everything matching up. Did I live this past year in a way that feels honest? Did I grow? Did I show up when it truly mattered? For many people, a birth date becomes less about noise and more about thinking. It is not that they do not care. It is that their idea of a party has changed. Maybe their party now looks like going for a quiet walk alone, cooking the food they like most, or taking a calm day off to think. It is not the loud joy of bright balloons. It is the soft joy of being by yourself. And that is something our world often gets wrong. We confuse quiet with emptiness, but silence can be important. In mind study, this is linked to something called self-agreement motivation. When your values and your actions start to be the same, you feel a deeper sense of being complete, even without others telling you you are good. So when someone spends their birth date quietly, it is not caring. It is everything being in line. They are no longer chasing the kind of party that is loud, short-lived, and for show. They have replaced it with something steady, trusting in themselves, but still there is a strong emotional current that flows under that peace. Because while some people truly feel good spending their birth date like a normal day, others quietly wish they did not have to. They wish someone else would take the first step. They wish they did not have to pretend that it does not matter. And that fight between wanting to be noticed and wanting to seem fine is one of the most human struggles there is. We all have it. The desire to be seen without asking. The desire to be celebrated without making room for it. It is that common ache between being free and being close to others. From a mind study view, this is connected to something called earned strong connection. When people have gone through emotional hurts, maybe growing up in places where being cared for was not always there or was only sometimes given, they learn to rely on themselves. But even people who are very self-reliant carry a quiet hope that someone will see past their defenses. So, a birth date becomes a small test, not one you announce, but one your mind quietly watches. Who remembered? Who reached out without being told? Who still sees you when you are not clearly visible? And even if you tell yourself it does not matter, a small piece of you still checks. That is not being weak. That is being human. Because no matter how much we know ourselves or how emotionally independent we become, we never outgrow the need to connect. We just get better at hiding that need. There is also a surprising point in how people relate to time on their birth dates. For some it feels like progress, for others it feels like pressure. And the brain deals with that pressure in different ways, based on what your past feelings have been. If your past years have been satisfying, birth dates feel like good markers. But if the last year has been hard or confusing, a birth date can feel like a quiet face-off with yourself, a reminder that another year has passed and the questions you have not answered are still waiting. That is why many people would rather blend the day into the rest of the week. It is not ignoring the truth. It is keeping themselves safe. It is saying, I will think about things when I am ready. But even in that quiet, the day still holds weight. It stirs up memory, thankfulness, feelings of regret, feelings of the past all at once. It is like your hidden mind checks everything that has changed and everything that has not. And in that inner talk, a strong thing happens. You realize that birth dates, when you strip away all the usual stuff and expectations, are actually points where you check your awareness. They make you stop, even for just a minute, and ask, am I living honestly? Am I still becoming someone I recognize? Do I like the story I'm telling with my life? When you treat your birth date like a normal day, it does not mean you are avoiding those questions. It might actually mean you are facing them quietly, alone, without anyone watching. Because not every kind of personal growth needs to be seen by everyone. Some growth is hidden. It is in the way you act differently than you used to. It is in the way you forgive quicker, complain less, or find beauty in moments that you once did not notice. And maybe that is the truest kind of party, when you do not need the day to feel amazing because you have learned to find what is amazing inside what is ordinary. Still, there is a gentle truth worth remembering. Even the most self-reliant people still deserve to feel special once in a while. Not because they need to be told they are good, but because being acknowledged helps the parts of us that take care of others. The ones who treat their birth dates like any other day are often the same people who make space for everyone else's important days. They are the quiet, strong points in their groups. The ones who remember your dates, who check on you first, who give without keeping a score, and sometimes those people forget that they also deserve to have light on them. That it is okay to let others give back, that you do not have to work for joy by being strong all year, because even the calmest souls still need warmth. Even the independent hearts still need to be seen, not for what they do, but for who they are. There is nothing wrong with wanting that. There is nothing weak about missing it. If you have ever felt that quiet ache on your birth date, the kind that does not demand attention, but still beats beneath your chest, that is your heart, reminding you that connection still matters. It is reminding you that you are human, and that is the whole point of the day. It is not to celebrate being perfect or what you have achieved. It is to celebrate the fact that you are still here, still learning, still changing, still trying to understand what it means to be alive. So maybe the mind study of people who treat their birth date like a normal day is not about not caring at all. Maybe it is about joining things together, the mixing of joy and thinking, the acceptance that not every feeling has to be loud to be real. And yet, even in that peace, there is room for small, kind actions, because one simple text can still make someone's day better. One voice message, one phone call, one moment of true presence. We forget how much those small recognitions mean to someone who says it is just a normal day. For them, it is not about how big the party is. It is about being honest. It is about being reminded that their quiet existence still spreads out, still matters to someone. And maybe that is the real mind study of it all, that deep down, none of us truly want to be unseen. We just want to be loved in a way we understand. Some people want fireworks, others just want peace. Some people want surprises, others want things to be steady. Some people want big groups, others want one person who truly listens. And that is fine. There is no right way to feel about your own life. So, if your birth date feels ordinary, if you went to your job, made your hot drink, looked at your messages, and kept going, maybe that is not something you need to fix. Maybe it is something to value. Because what you are really saying is, my life is already full enough to not need one day to make it important. That is not caring, that is being thankful in a hidden way, but at the same time, allow yourself to be gentle. If you miss the excitement you once felt, it is okay to feel that too. Missing your younger self does not mean you have gone backward. It means you are remembering what being innocent felt like before the world taught you to hold back, and perhaps that is the greatest gift you can give yourself on your birth date. To remember the small person who once counted down to the night with bright eyes, who believed that one day could hold endless magic, because that small person is still inside you somewhere, waiting not for a party but for you to notice them, waiting for you to whisper, "Hey, I see you, we made it another year." That is the kind of party that does not disappear when the candles go out. That is the kind that stays with you, so if your birth date ever feels like just a normal day, do not feel bad about it. It is not being empty, it is growing. It is the mind learning that meaning does not need noise. And yet in the quiet, if someone remembers you, let them say your name. Let them remind you that you matter, because you do. Even on the days that feel ordinary, even when you treat your birth date like a normal day, especially then, because maybe that is the most beautiful thing about getting older, learning that the party does not always need small pieces of colored paper. Sometimes it just needs awareness, a moment of stillness, a deep breath. You do not have to make a wish. You already are one, a continuing life of every version of yourself that made it this far, and that is worth celebrating, quietly or not, every single day.